Welcome, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce American Express Global Business Travel and their session on consolidating on-prem identity access management with Okta. American Express Global Business Travel is a multinational travel and meeting program management company. They have resources in more than 140 countries and book over 5 million rooms annually. This session is going to focus on how they implemented Okta Access Gateway and how it provided them significant savings. We will learn about Amex GBT's journey to centralizing on-prem identity management, from securing apps with SSO and MFA to improving their end user experience and getting granular insights into their environment. Amex GBT will share their key challenges, lessons, success, and accomplishments that they experienced securing and modernizing on-prem applications. For those that have not heard about Okta Access Gateway, OAG, it is a reverse proxy based virtual application designed to secure web applications that don't natively support SAML or OIDC. Access Gateway integrates with legacy applications using HTTP headers and Kerberos tokens and offers URL based authentication and more. Please make this interactive and ask questions in the chat. We will be responding to those questions as they come in. And so, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce to you Poonam Dusani, the Director of Identity and Access Management, Tyler Colbeth, and Sai Sandeep, engineers at American Express Global Business Travel. Take it away, Poonam.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. I'm Poonam Dasani, and I am very pleased and honored to be speaking in front of you today and share our journey of Okta and Okta Access Gateway. In today's presentation, we'll go over some brief introductions about my team and about GBT as a company, followed by our journey of Okta and Okta Access Gateway, some challenges that we faced prior to switching to Okta Access Gateway and how OAG helped us solve those challenges. Um, we will also go through our deployment journey and the architecture that was simplified because of this implementation. We'll also go over some benefits as well as our vision for Okta and OAG in GBT. We would also end with giving you an advice on what lessons we learned from overall implementation and how you could make this better for you if you are looking at implementing OAG in your company. So, who is GBT? Paul gave a good introduction about we as a company. We are not American Express, we are American Express Global Business Travel. We are world's leading partner in managed travel. And we have a travel professionals around in 140 countries and 16 to 17,000 employees overall worldwide. We serve companies of all the varying sizes and in different places by giving them travel management services, organizing meetings and events, and also giving some managed business travel consulting. Well, we all know travel has been greatly hit by pandemic, and so do we. Everybody is working from home. There have been employees who were furloughed, and there were also employees with reduced working hours. We have been faced with unique use cases and challenges to give users restricted access to the resources that they needed. And I'm glad that we had Okta. Through Okta and the multi-factor authentication and the different policies, we were able to give a secure remote working environment to our employees so they feel as comfortable working from home as they were in office. We have a small identity and access management team of full-time employees, and we are also supported by our contractors, who is our extended team, and they are our implementation partners. We also work very closely with our CSM Paul and also Okta Professional Services in implementing some of the major projects. So with that, I also have my team, Sai and Tyler here, who are my lead IAM engineers, and they would walk us through our journey of Okta and how OAG was implemented in GBT. With that, I'll hand it over to Tyler. Tyler, all yours.
Thanks, Poonam. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. Before we discuss how we used Okta's Access Gateway, I'd like to give a brief overview of how we started with Okta and some of the key features we were able to take advantage of early on. Our journey started by onboarding and migrating apps to Okta's integration network, which was helpful in quickly migrating and securing over 70 applications in our first few weeks of the engagement, which provided immediate value. And because the configurations and integrations were so easy, we were able to continue migrating applications over while we implemented other items to the right. From there, we wanted to add a layer of security to the apps we had just migrated, so we deployed multi-factor authentication, which is a key feature in a year like 2020. With our workforce dispersed and working from home due to COVID, as Poonam had mentioned, Okta's many options for MFA and policy flexibility allowed us to address some key challenges in deploying MFA to a global workforce. We were able to get this successfully deployed in a way that met security requirements and user adoption. Again, with security and improving the user experience in mind, we deployed Okta's password management feature, which gave our users access to a self-service model for password resets, which significantly lowered the tickets our service desk saw for password and account-related issues. An added bonus was it also improved our password hygiene by doing checks in real time for things like commonly used and weak passwords. Then came a couple larger projects, still simple to deploy, but thanks to Okta's mature integrations. The federation of Office 365 and Device Trust. By moving O365 behind Okta, we were able to save money, increase security, and implement stronger access and MFA controls. This was quickly followed by Device Trust, which allowed us to extend access to certain applications to only managed devices, allowing us to further enable our users while ensuring the apps and data they were accessing was still secure. Finally, one most companies are all too familiar with, mergers and acquisitions, which are usually a long, drawn-out process that can sometimes never fully complete. Thanks to Okta, we were able to change this narrative. Using things like Universal Directory and fine-grained policies, we shortened this time from months and years down to weeks, making these new users feel like part of GBT on day one. But while doing all of these, we were still migrating apps, and we realized that we had some applications that we couldn't migrate due to not supporting SAML and OIDC natively, which is how we came to exploring Okta Access Gateway. Here we'll look at some of the challenges we faced. Not only did these apps not support SAML or OIDC, there were also the challenges around managing these apps with separate legacy IAM tools. We quickly realized the tools we were managing these apps with didn't align with our goals. They were decentralized from a policy and configuration standpoint. We couldn't move or enhance as quickly as we would like to due to things like infrastructure maintenance and complex app configurations, all of which Sai will go into greater detail later. But also managing these applications in a separate tool led to things like policy overload, entitlement sprawl, and even security gaps. Managing policies and entitlements for access controls was difficult to do when they lived in two different tools. Having to double check the policies and ensure they aligned and didn't conflict, which impacted security by not being able to implement the same level of controls we could on our apps behind Okta, which in turn affected the user experience in MFA depending on the application. Luckily for us, we had Okta Access Gateway, which provided a solution for all the problems and challenges we had just discussed. Access Gateway helped us to take a decentralized IAM environment and centralize it on one platform, Okta. Regardless of the authentication methods, SAML, OIDC, HTTP headers, and Kerberos, we can now be confident in the security policies and controls because they now lived in one place. It also gave us the flexibility and speed we were looking for to move these apps over and apply enhancements at a much quicker pace. But above all, we gained the same insight and benefits from Okta that we had become familiar with, and also our end users have become familiar with. We got better logging, better security, and a better overall end user experience. And from here, I'll hand it over to Sai, who will be going into greater detail on how it was deployed, architected, and a great benefit for more than just the IAM team.
Thanks, Taylor. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'll be going over cross team collaboration, which teams we need to engage with, and the simplified architecture of OAG, and benefits from IAM perspective and application perspective from we received from OAG rollout. So, what all teams will be engaged during this migration, right? So, for this migration, definitely it's not just IAM team performing the action, but it need to come through different teams as well. So this collaboration will be from Active Directory, middleware, infrastructure, and our partners and vendors and the extended team. Right, in specific, so AD team will be responsible to perform the DNS changes on application side and as well as on the OAG side, and the networking team to understand the firewalls that to pass or allow the data between internal networks and the different data centers, right, which are flowing between the applications and to the OAG, and from OAG to the applications. As OAG is the reverse based proxy gateway in place, so the data or the network flow should be open on 443 between OAG and application teams to every application which we onboard. So yeah, so networking team, we need them to understand that. And application teams, so here they play a major role as most of the intranet web-based apps are running on legacy code and architecture. It's very difficult to understand the application configuration as they're very complicated, especially with the current SSO solution, right? With the legacy solution that is already existing. So there are different agents that are installed on the application configuration side. So to reduce that complexity and to understand, we definitely need the expertise from the application team and analyze the effort or timelines to migrate the app within time. And coming to the next, the load balancing and the middleware teams. So these are the teams with which we spend most of the time with, right? So where LB team will be responsible for doing the SSL offloading, F5 pool setup, and they will be performing the redirections and the application rules as well during the rollout. On the other hand, middleware performs changes on the web application server of all the legacy apps. So as said, the legacy solutions always prefer to have the agents for the interception between the application and the solution itself, right? So there were agents already installed on these legacy solutions, especially on the application configuration side. So these are the two teams we spend most of the time with, and just to call out, to have a better onboarding experience from both IAM teams and as well on the application teams, it's good to have to reserve a few set of resources or a group of resources who are already aware of what configurations need to be made on the application end and as well as on the LB end to write the rules. If there is a new resource coming up each and every time when we jump on a call for each application migration, so it would be very difficult to start understanding the configuration and to make the changes. So to save the time on either sides of the teams, so it's good to prefer to reserve few set of people or a group of people for this activity on the LB and middleware teams. Coming to the partners and the extended teams, we definitely need the support for on the guidance of the infrastructure architecture and help us throughout the migration in project timelines perspective and to roll out on time. So architecture. Right. So on the left, you see the legacy solution we were working on previously when we migrated before we migrated with Okta Access Gateway. On the right, it's the simplified version of Okta Access Gateway. On overall perspective, if you look at how complicated it is, right, on the different steps of authentication itself, like starting with application servers and policy servers and policy stores, including different authentication flows from the user store, session store, and key store, right? So these are the different layers what legacy solutions provided. And top of this, whenever an authentication flow is happening, right? So it's just not the SSO solution which is performing these checks and checking the policies and this data store, but also for interception, there is a separate agent that we need to install on the application end, right? So, which would result in a complicated and a fragile configuration where organizations would feel hesitant to do the upgrades and patches, right? Due to that fragile configuration, where if you are making changes to at least one of the flows or to at least one of the policy servers, it would result in break of complete flow of authentication. So that was a complexity with the legacy solutions for on-prem web-based applications. So if we, on the other side, if we talk about OAG, right? So starting with the provisioning of the appliance itself. So we get an out-of-the-box OA image from Okta, where we take advantage of that and provision that. And once that is provisioned, what work left would be the HA setup, right? And that would be all from the OAG perspective, what we do from middleware or LB side. Post the provisioning, it's again the same to allow the ports from OAG to application team, each application, whichever we onboard, that is what we do uh, for HA setup and for the authentication. And as said earlier, right, by Poonam and Tyler, as OAG is a reverse web-based proxy gateway, right? So every request would flow for a double verification between OAG gateway and the application team. So there are no agents that will be installed on the application configuration, right? So which would make easy. And talking about the infra, the number of servers for SiteMinder, it was like around 12 servers we were spinning up and we were running on for the SSO solution to be up and running. But whereas for OAG, it's like 50% infrastructure reduction, where we got down to 4 servers, including everything. Like, so we don't need to have the administration policy servers or policy stores and the user session tracking servers separately. So everything is going to be in a single appliance where the OVA we are taking advantage of from Okta. So which is making very simple. So for any upgrades or patches, it would be pretty straight, similar to a SaaS solution. You see the upgrade populating when you do a scan, and you select the upgrade and you just do the upgrade and don't worry about the HA or any application side changes during your solution upgrade, which would reduce the complexity from an administration operations perspective as well. Which all teams are benefited from OAG, right? Starting with IAM. So from IAM perspective, the main goal we would want to achieve is a centralized management with fine-grained access controls to these web-based applications. It's for both intranet and internet. And the good thing here with Okta is both intranet and internet app global configurations, authentication policies, and multi-factor. Everything can be managed to the single console, so that we don't end up maintaining two different set of servers and policies for Okta Access Gateway and the regular Okta instance for SAML and SaaS-based applications, right? And the ease of deployment, upgrades, and enhancements, which is made easy as it's going to be just the apply and provisioning from our side, and we'll be taking advantage of the OVA from Okta. And coming to the operations, reduction in infrastructure, as said, like 50% reduction in infra, and it would result in overhead system support, administration for the operations teams, which is good. And coming from an application team perspective, how it's going to benefit from them. So on the foremost, there are no agents that will be installed on the application side, right? So application team can feel free to do any configuration changes or do any upgrades on the application itself. without any dependency on the SSO solution, which is not the case when it is with the legacy solution, because there were agents installed on the application configuration where everything is intercepted, right? So that's a good onboarding experience. And it's not just onboarding, even the post onboarding, it's a good experience for the application team where it's very less complicated and reduction in complexity there, and enabling user to access apps with ease. So I said, from the IAM perspective, it's always a goal to achieve the fine-grained access controls, right? So for this application team, for this purpose, application team can do create the AD groups based on which we provide the access, right? So it can be restricted to only few set of people. Whoever is in the groups can get access, and if you are not in the group, then you will not be seeing that app and it will be hidden, which is a good practice from the onboarding and from also on the access to the apps perspective. And company overall, it's definitely with reduction in infra and reduction in administration support, it would definitely co- result in cost savings with improved security posture, with all the fine-grained access controls and centralized management. So that is all from me. I'll hand it over to Poonam.
Thank you, Sai. That was a good overview of the overall architecture and deployment. So from here, where do we go? What is our vision of Okta? So when it comes to vision, we want to move towards more modern and advanced authentication that gives a seamless end user experience and also help us enforce some strong adaptive policy checks. And for that, we have been exploring some new features coming in Okta, I think it's later this year, like Okta FastPass. Okta FastPass gives a passwordless authentication experience to the users, and it, when combined with the features like device trust, it can be restricted to managed compliant devices. We would also like to explore some other security features like adaptive MFA, which is risk-based multi-factor authentication, and also factor sequencing that gives us more flexibility around implementing MFA policies for the applications that needs to be accessed outside the network from users' personal devices, because as we know, we're working from home and some employees do not have access to the laptops if they have been reduced working hours. So it becomes very, very important to give access to all the resources that they need from their personal devices as well. So these policies of multi-factor authentication, different factors for MFA, and giving a risk-based, assigning a risk-based profile to every user and asking additional questions and challenges to the users, if there's a suspicious activity, then that becomes very helpful with these features. We would also like to onboard more and more applications to Okta and also Okta Access Gateway. So right now we onboarded a few applications to OAG that was critical for migrating from our legacy tool, but our goal is to have all of the applications as much as possible to be onboarded into Okta, so we can have a centralized SSO solution for our company, and there are no disparate local credentials and logins happening in multiple systems, and users don't have to remember different usernames and passwords for all the applications they need access to. And overall, I think this year and coming 3 years, we would like to leverage Okta's partnership with major cloud providers and see how they could help us in our journey of cloud implementation. So some of the advices that would like to give to the customers who are looking at implementing specifically OAG in their company is a good partner selection. I think that is very, very important. The partner who is experienced in OAG deployment is critical, because the overall architecture of Okta is different than Okta Access Gateway. So if you have experience in Okta, does not mean that you would be successful in OAG as well. I mean, it is definitely, it has a different flavor to it. So it's very important to choose a partner who is well versed and experienced in at least one deployment of Okta Access Gateway. And another important thing, start early. and set right expectations. Because in our earlier slide, Sai went through all the teams that we collaborate with in order to make this a success. And it's very important that we engage all of the teams ahead of time. There is a good amount of time and effort investment from those teams as well. So you need to make sure that you set the right expectations and timelines and engage them well ahead of time. So everybody is working in a collaborative manner and there is no delay because of the time. Training is very important as well. Like your core team who would be implementing OAG, just make sure that if they have the OAG training taken. My team took the training while we were halfway through the deployment, and we realized that if we had taken that earlier, it would have saved us some time and effort for sure, because there were many things we were trying to figure out while we were implementing, because of the lack of knowledge on that particular deployment. So the training that is given by Okta is really great. It's couple hours, few days, and it's very helpful. That gives you an overall insight into the architecture of OAG and what you would need to have it released in your environment. So definitely go for your training for the employees that will be leading the project. With that, I'd like to conclude. I hope this presentation and this session was helpful for all of you, and you were able to get some insights into OAG and how you could help implement OAG in your environment with this session. So with that, I'd like to just we are here over for some more time. So if you have any questions, you can put it on the chat. Thank you.